Hello, everyone, and welcome to UXArmy's webinar on Beyond Transactions, bringing your organization closer to your customers. As we all know, in today's digital age, building meaningful relationships with your customers has become even more critical than ever before. And customer relations and trust play a pivotal role in all businesses. So, in today's session with Lynette, we will uncover insights and best practices and also discuss actionable steps on how to bridge this gap between organizations and their customers through user research. Lynette will also be sharing with us the example of Trust Bank and how they have crafted innovative strategies that resonate with their users while aligning with business objectives. So together we'll explore how to cultivate a culture of customer centricity and bring your organizations close to the people we serve. We have our honored guest today, Lynette, who currently holds the position of User Experience and Community Strategy Lead at Trust Bank Singapore. And Lynette will be our host for this webinar today. So thank you so much for giving us this opportunity, Lynette, and for joining in.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much, Alokika, for the introduction. And hello, everyone. I guess I know it's a small group, but I also understand this is a recorded session. So I actually want to have a chat about how we can design more thoughtful and interesting journeys for financial apps by bringing our organization closer to our customers. But before I jump into the meat of what you guys came here to hear, I'll just get my introduction out of the way first. So I think, as mentioned before, I'm Lynette. I'm the UX and Community Strategy Lead at Trust Bank since 2021. And my background is actually in human factor psychology. And I've actually been doing research pretty much my entire career, from academia into UX consulting and a startup before actually joining Trust Bank. So for some of you who may not know what Trust Bank is or not familiar with Singapore, Trust Bank is the first digitally native bank to launch publicly in Singapore, and is formed by a unique partnership between Standard Chartered and NTUC Enterprise. And we launched on the 1st of September in 2022. And actually since then, Trust has become one of the world's fastest growing digital bank by market share. I think at the end of last year, we kind of have about 14% of Singapore's eligible population. So traditionally, I think financial organizations can be notoriously slow in responding to customer feedback. And for good reason as well. There's regulations, risk controls to actually go through to protect customers with. However, many of these processes actually are still quite manual. Yet, customers' expectations and business priorities are constantly in flux, and they are ever-changing, right? So at a digital bank or any fintech, we have to compete with long-standing traditional banks that actually have already built up trust and their reputation over a long time. So when we don't have that luxury of that long-time reputation, we have to respond faster to show to our customers that we're acting on their feedback and their needs in order to build up that trust with them faster, right? And at Trust Bank, we actually have very rapid release cycles. It takes almost a month for a bank in Singapore to release a major update to their mobile app. For Trust Bank, it's about 2 times a month, 16 days, almost comparable to any other digital startups out there. And we've made more than 1,000 production changes in the last 90 days. So with us, speed matters. And this pace has driven how we built the user research practice at Trust. And my main role is to bring trust closer to the customers at the speed of a growing digital bank. So let me share with you guys how we actually do it differently here at Trust with these 3 different approaches. And I'll also later share a case study that ties it all together. So we no longer need to wait months for reports to understand what's going on with our customers' pain points. We continuously listen by getting their feedback and suggestions almost in real time through the Ideas Slack channel, which is public to all employees at Trust Bank. Every product manager is in there, including tech leads, legal, risk, compliance, customer service, and every C-level, including our CEO. Everyday items actually that comes through our customer service agents that's tagged as valid feedback gets pushed into this channel. And we also understand what happens in our funnels via product analytics dashboards on Tableau that all of us have access to. We also crawl through app reviews, which usually picks up issues that don't surface via customer service calls or chats. And if, let's say, there's actually something to investigate, it's a certain pain point that we actually hear about, that we need more information for, we'll actually take an afternoon to go down to our Trust Experience Center, which is our only branch because we don't technically have branches at Vivo City in a mall next to NTUC FairPrice to actually observe and chat with customers. And this is our little way of how we do guerrilla research. Now, we also do continuous discovery, and that's to observe and understand customers' needs and wants. And we use many different methods depending on the research goals, from home visits to co-creation workshops with our customers, customer interviews, concept testing, app usability testing, or surveys via the app. And what you see here in this picture is a wall of results after usability test. We actually printed all the screens out and we added all the post-it notes for each participant. So each row is a single participant. And we chose a wall at a corridor that has a lot of footfall where trust staff will actually come and go, and as they walk through this corridor, they will actually read. And this is how continuous listening and discovery with the various user research methods drive our development cycle to deliver rapid solutions. From the discover phase to design to development, that's how we kind of put all of these together. And I wonder how many of you actually do kind of experience this. After putting so much effort into the research work, it gets disregarded sometimes when people are making decisions about the feature or product. So how do we help them listen? Now, I have something interesting here. The answer to helping them listen is in this rebus puzzle. A rebus puzzle is basically a picture representation of a common phrase. If you guys can give a guess as to what this phrase is, I'm not sure whether you guys can actually use the chat. So maybe let me just kind of reveal what the answer is as well. So this phrase is basically try to understand. So try to is under the stand. And we basically need to try to understand each other a little bit more. And why is this important? This keeps a UXer, I guess, relevant to our stakeholders. And when we understand more, we can figure out the trade-offs that needs to be made between the business and customers' needs. And as a UX person, there's homework to do, especially for financial products. You got to understand what your business priorities are. Don't keep it high level. Be detailed to know where the business makes money and where it loses money. Even things like for me personally, I had to go and understand what the terminology basis points actually mean when it comes to people talking about interest rates or even interchange rates with credit cards, things like that. We do need to know these kind of details in order to understand and to make our recommendations a lot more effective. And for the business folks, on the other hand, they also need to understand the customer's ecosystem. An ecosystem isn't just the direct interactions between the actual customer and the product or service, but to also look into who or what influences this person's decision making. Anything in the environment, whether it's the government, technology, or even the media experiences, how does that actually affect the psychology? And not everyone uses a rational way of thinking as well. So take, for example, like one survey that we previously did, we learned that, hey, Gen Zs actually use information they read on social media to make financial decisions. So what are we supposed to make out of this, right? And we also have to help them, like these business people, to actually understand the customer's ecosystem a lot better with our discovery methods. And we should bring them along for the journey, get them to observe or to co-participate, coach them if necessary as well, especially if they are going to co-facilitate it with you. So they actually get to experience what customers are going through firsthand. And if they can't join in person, then bring lively elements of videos or even audio into your reports. So at Trust Bank, after gathering all the information from the various studies, we didn't want to keep what we learned about customers in a silo. So we actually launched Research Bites, a Slack channel that any trust staff can join to read the distilled insights of what we've learned to help them empathize with customers better, which we hope will help in their day-to-day. So this is actually an example of what you find in Research Bites. It's an interest tracker design we tested, and the whole of Trust now understands why we chose to develop it in a certain direction. And over the last 2 years, we've also brought in tools like Qualtrics and UXArmy that accelerated access to customers and allowed many other employees to run tests by themselves. So from planning for a test, reaching the right participants to getting the insights, previously it used to take 1 to 2 months. Now we hear back from customers within 24 hours. And we typically use this, for UXArmy, for this simpler usability testing or design preference testings, stuff like that. So now, just share a little case study of how we actually listened from customer service and from people at the Trust Experience Center. And we also ran a particular usability study, which we typically call the UX benchmarking, because we're collecting certain metrics from it. And we realized that senior customers actually find it difficult to navigate and find actions they want to do frequently. And we do have like 30% of our customers above 55 years old. So we took a challenge to kind of improve the usability of the homepage. At the same time, the business priority is to increase the number of products someone has with the bank, because this improves their stickiness with us. So effective cross-selling is required. But we didn't want to stick ads everywhere, right? Because that detracts the overall experience. So how do we balance that out? So this is how the Trust app used to look like. It's super simple, very few options at the start, very clean. You have to horizontally scroll to look at the different products. You also have to horizontally scroll to look at the different rewards below. If you tap into money, then it opens another screen. If you tap into rewards, then it opens up the rewards screen. So when we actually ran like the co-creation workshops about this together with senior customers, we actually learned quite a few things as well. And we initially called it care mode for seniors. And we realized a lot of them actually do have problems with their finger dexterity when it comes to scrolling on the phone. Some of them can't even horizontally scroll. One lady also shared that she actually needed to wear a device on her hand to actually help her do that kind of scrolling movement. And so we then decided, hey, we probably should not use any horizontal scrolls anymore. And when it comes to fonts as well, we decided we should have scalable fonts. When we actually had one senior participant come in and I took a look at his phone, he had his text accessibility at the biggest text size because it's also very hard for them to read at that particular age, right? And because the text size was so large, it broke every single thing in terms of the design. And so it looked really horrible as well. And things were truncated. And so it was also hard to understand certain functions. And they also mentioned in the co-creation workshop that they actually wanted quick links. So quick links to places that are frequently used. So things like their balances, things like their card number, as the rewards as well, the coupons, the steps, and the link points. And very often, some areas which we kind of know that was tappable, it wasn't actually obvious to them that it was tappable. So we decided, okay, these buttons actually do need to make it look super obvious that it's tappable. However, when we came together as a team and we looked at it, we kind of had a light bulb moment as well. Like, if it actually works for seniors, it should work for everyone as well, doesn't it? When we really think about design accessibility. And so we went back to the drawing board, which is Figma, and created many, many different variations. As you can see here, we also even experimented with different colors, different contrasts, to really see which was better and how it actually affects the way people actually interact on our homepage. And we tested this with many different people of different ages as well, and not just seniors. And here's even more variations. As you can see, we also experimented with illustrations. And this was the final piece that we actually came up with, a design that actually works for everyone and also meets the business objective. So here you can see how the homepage scales with a single product versus more products, and actually provides enough space to promote new products and campaigns. So the campaigns are the rewards portion below, of which when you scroll down below with the vertical feed, you can see a lot more things. And with this, we can also do a lot more than compared to the previous old design that you saw initially. And just to highlight here, this is the area that we also do a lot of cross-selling. And this doesn't really look like a super ad, isn't it? There's no fancy graphics on it per se. It's just something very simple. But it kind of works. So as a result, we actually did see 10 times more click-throughs on what we call the next best action, which is that cross-selling aspect of things. And customers kind of liked it as well. And that's it. Thank you so much. That's basically our secret to making customers happy, on a fast track to building trust with them. And we can only do this when we are also able to galvanize everyone in the company to actually focus on the customers. Yeah. Any questions?
Thank you so much for your presentation, Lynette. I think we are open to taking up questions now. So if you guys have any questions for Lynette, please post them in the Q&A section, and we'll answer them one by one. Okay, so Lynette, I think we do have a question here from Alex, who is asking, like, why do you think is UX research important?
Yeah, I think it's a particular method for us to be able to connect to customers and the people that we're actually designing for, right? Like, they are the ones that we actually do need to understand what their needs at once are, so that whatever that the business actually then designs or provides actually does meet their needs. And I think UX research and its various methods, whether it's a usability test where we actually observe how they actually use things and the different pain points that they experience, or whether it's an interview or whether we do home visits, these are all the different ways that we can kind of distill whatever that we actually learn about the customers and bring it back to the organization to share. Yeah. And I think I see another question from Angus about navigating the abundance of potential research topics and prioritizing which ones to pursue, especially when there are many options available. I'm assuming here in terms of the different requests that actually do come in, how do we actually prioritize those? Typically for me, there are various things that I look at. One would be the urgency of things. How urgent does this person need it? Two, is it a very risky area? And when I say risky area, meaning if let's say we don't get any answers to this particular particular question or this particular topic, to what extent does it affect the business? To what extent does it affect the customers? If it's if the magnitude of that is quite big, then it gets prioritized higher. If it's a lot lesser, then it gets prioritized lower. The other question, especially in a financial organization, that I also ask is how much revenue or profits does it actually get back as well? And is it a strategic thing or is it a tactical thing? So I think there's just multiple areas that we actually do need to consider when it comes to prioritizing. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
We have another one from Amit who was asking, how do you find conversation rate? Like when you change the design, how do you measure that the user is tapping more here or now? Is there any tool that you use?
Yes, so we actually use Google Analytics on our mobile app as well. So we do measure conversion rates whenever we do change the design. I do have the numbers. Unfortunately, I can't really share it. So yes, for almost every major redesign or features that we do put out, we will always tag it and we would measure it.
If there are more questions or follow-up questions on any of your previous ones, guys, please type it down here. Okay, so in the meantime, Lynette, I do have a question for you. So, yeah, like what strategies do you recommend implementing, in order to make sure that the research findings are not just captured in a repository, which they usually are accused of, but rather like they're actively used, by relevant teams and departments. So how do you make sure like that is done?
I think there are various ways to do it. First and foremost, in your presentation to the team. Like for me, my process, I typically have 2 different presentations. Actually 3. So the very first one is to the immediate team, where the research findings matter the most. In that particular session, the findings are extremely detailed. And we take a really long time, sometimes an hour, sometimes 2 hours to really go through every single finding and discuss them. At the same time, and then the second presentation I have is a presentation to wider stakeholders. So take, for example, the C-levels. And for that, I don't go through the entire presentation report because that would be too much, right? And so I just distill it into kind of like a summary, just enough for them to make certain decisions by. And I also prepared a presentation in collaboration with the immediate team members as well. So the product manager that's also involved. So we kind of collaborate on that presentation together. And this really ensures that the product manager actually does take this finding seriously and into consideration, because they also would have to come up with the recommendations and the solutions for it as well. And the final one is something that I think it kind of, as mentioned, I showed just now, we actually do have research bites as well. So we actually distill those insights and we put it up there. And at the same time, so that's for all the trust employees to see. At the same time, at Trust Bank, we also have something called Customer Hour. And a Customer Hour is literally every single thing from customer service chats, a summary of what happens there, to the complaints that happens to, for example, any complaints that actually come in through, or any operational things or any technological issues that do affect customers, and whatever user research that we actually conduct as well. We actually do kind of like a 5 minutes presentation. So it's also kind of like a bite to the rest of the company as well. So yeah, these are the ways we kind of get people to kind of focus more on the customers.
Thank you for your answer. I think we have more questions here.
Yeah.
So Balaji is asking, I am just starting out in UX design. I want to know how this user research will be followed in the organizations. I think he's trying to say, is it followed every time whenever a new feature or any small change has to be implemented, how does one start practicing it in the starting of their learning journey?
So I think two things here. For the first one, I would say every organization does user research differently. So I think and some organizations are a little smaller, for example, and they don't have a big user research team or a UX design team. And some are a little bit more mature where they have certain processes set in place. The smaller teams tend to kind of DIY almost everything. You may probably see a lot of quick and dirty guerrilla research that goes on, and of which it really also depends on the organization's appetite for user research. Some places don't always believe in it, and that's when, as a UX designer or a user researcher, you need to do a lot of evangelizing to show its value. More often than not, it usually starts from a usability test that actually then solves certain pain points of the customers. Whether it follows every new feature or any small changes also depends on the capacity or the resources that the organization has. Take, for example, at Trust, I'm the only researcher. So to be honest, I don't always do user research on any small change. I only take on the ones that are value enough, that really is valuable for. So I think, as mentioned in the previous prioritization questions, I usually only prioritize and do those that do have more strategic long-term value, or whether the questions are very risky. Yeah. And how do you start practicing it? I think there are a ton of resources out there, online especially, lots of magazines or places like UX Collective, News and Norman Group. They actually do have a lot of resources, and to start out from there to really learn. If you want to start on user research per se, I do highly recommend going through the courses there, and probably take on your own little project as well. Yeah.
Okay, next we have a question from Swapnil, who's asking, like, opening account in digital banking has lengthy forms. How do you handle it to get it quick onboarding?
A lot of collaboration with the regulators, a lot of collaboration with my counterparts in risk, a lot of collaboration with legal and compliance, and having to get legal risk, compliance, and even technology risk all together onto the same page, really looking at the customers. And sometimes I think this also kind of came across quite strongly that we really wanted to differentiate on the customer experience. And when that is set as the goal for the company at the get-go, for the design, that's when we actually really focused a lot on the onboarding. And right now, Trust Bank's onboarding, I mean, a person can sign up and get a credit card in less than 3 minutes. So, yeah, it's actually a lot of collaboration and a lot of ding-donging as well with the regulators to really push things through. And yeah, I think that's the key thing there.
Did you say less than 3 minutes?
Yes, less than 3 minutes. That's how fast our onboarding is. I think we pretty much set a bar in Singapore, but I'm sure our competitors are very quickly rising up to the task now after they have seen how we are able to do it.
Okay, lastly, Amit is asking, maybe this is out of topic, but how do you take design critique?
So we take design critique in various forms and with different teams as well. We actually hold separate meetings, I guess, with different teams. So with the development team, we actually have a weekly one where we always show them early designs. for their feedback and for their ideas as well. We also have another meeting with our chief product officer together with the product managers related to that particular feature. It's also almost on a weekly cadence. And then we also have another one with the CEO himself. Also, that one less frequent, so but probably about 2 times a month. And the critic is kind of free-flowing in these sessions. We do take them into consideration, but not everything gets implemented. We do have to sometimes go back and think a little bit about it and then feedback back to them. More often than not, because we also use Figma, right? And in Figma, you can leave comments. The product managers or the business analysts, they're also able to leave comments directly there. So, and the designers are actually able to respond. Or actually, honestly, all of us are able to respond to each other. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think we have covered up all the questions. Okay, so do you have anything else to add as a closing note, Lynette?
I hope that this has kind of given you guys a quick idea as to how you can move fast to a certain extent and how you can use user research to move fast. Yes, there are always trade-offs with the different methods that you typically use, whether it's in-person testing or whether it's a remote kind of testing, whether you're going to do an interview or not do an interview. Yes, there are always I think for UX research, especially today, in order for us to really stay relevant, I do feel that we really need to understand the business side of things as well. And so I hope you guys are able to find that balance, I would say, of being sure and standing your ground and pushing what the customers need, but yet at the same time considering where the business is. So yeah. Thank you very much. I hope this helps you guys in your journey.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time, Lynette, and for joining us in. Genuinely, the insights that you've shared today during the webinar, I think it's going to help everybody who's trying to navigate the landscape of customer engagement and user research. So thanks a lot. And to all our attendees, thank you to you too for taking out your time and joining us today, and for all the engaging questions that you have asked. For information regarding more webinars that will come up, we'll keep you posted on the UXArmy website. So please do look out for the coming opportunities. Thank you once again for your time, Lynette.
Thank you.